Welcome to Conversations on the Coast, the Bay Area's premier author interview program. Today we are very happy to welcome back Jennifer Arnold. She came by some time ago to talk about her New York Times bestseller titled Through a Dog's Eyes. Today, she and Butch, the wonderful Butch, are here to talk about her new book, which is called In a Dog's Heart. What our dogs need, want, and deserve, and the gifts we can expect in return. It's published by Spiegel and Grau. Welcome back.
Thank you for having us back.
It's so nice to see you, and I just found out you flew all the way in from Atlanta yesterday and appeared at a bookstore in Sebastopol last night. I wonder that you're awake at this point.
We're hanging tough. We love it out here.
The interesting thing about this book, I think, is that it seems to share most of the successful practices and useful tips that you've developed at Canine Assistance, a service dog school based in beautiful Milton, Georgia.
That's right.
What is a service dog? We need to establish that, please.
Well, the terminology has kind of flipped back and forth over the years, but now we're fairly settled that assistance dog means any dog that helps a person who has a particular need, guide dogs or assistance dogs, etc. But service dogs are dogs who work with people who have difficulty with mobility.
Aha, okay. There's one story about a dog that I think you were trying to develop into a service dog. Now, for example, a person in with certain kind of disability can't open a drawer.
Right.
And
correct.
You tell the story of this dog who was a little strong.
Just ripped it right down.
Ripped the door right off.
He had to go to summer school, that dog.
It's called an unexpected problem.
Right. At least he was enthusiastic.
There's one part of the book's long subtitle, seems to have been put together by a committee or two, that I'd like to delve into a little bit. The one that needs explanation, the part that needs explanation, is the part that reads something about the gifts that we can expect from the dog in return for how we take care of the dog. And in the book, you put it this way, that when we are presented with the opportunity to have a relationship based on mutual trust and understanding with a dog, we are being offered a gift, one that offers both species myriad rewards.
Absolutely.
You believe that?
Oh, totally. And I think we sometimes miss, people who have a dog but don't really work to develop their relationship with the dog miss the whole point. But just having a little sneeze attack right now.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that it's important that, dogs try so hard to understand us.
Yeah.
We need to return the favor a bit.
Yeah. And it's got to be a much more difficult thing for them to understand us than for we to understand them.
But it's so important. I mean, it's literally survival for the dog. So they work very hard to understand us and to try to make us happy. But we have not done such a good job on our end always.
Well, you can bet that. You can bet that. One of the things that occurs throughout the book, and I don't know whether one should call it a theme, is your wonderful respect and love for dogs, which you give to us in the book, I think, through the anecdotes that you tell about what dogs do. And I'd like you to share the one that opens the book in the prologue. Could you do that?
I'd be happy to.
Thank you.
I'd first noticed the anxious mother when my dog Butch and I arrived at our departure gate at the massive Hartsfield-Jackson Atlanta International Airport. She was near the boarding area, jiggling a crying baby and holding the hand of a beautiful little girl who appeared to be about 3 years old. Looking at the sea of people crowded around the entrance to the jetway, I decided to give Butch a drink of water and a few treats before attempting to board the plane. After filling his bowl, I glanced back at the young mother. She was trying to get the busy gate agent's attention, undoubtedly to ask if she and her children could pre-board to get settled, but the crowd was blocking her from his view. The baby was now quiet, still in his mother's arms, but I could no longer see the little girl. Just at that moment, Butch pulled away from me, weaving through the sea of legs surrounding the boarding area. I scrambled along in his wake. When I finally caught up, I found him nuzzling the little girl who'd gone missing. The mom and I had reached the pair simultaneously, and upon seeing her mother, the child pitifully wailed, "Mommy, I got lost, but this saver dog came to help me." Then she wrapped her arms around Butch's neck and started crying. After a few deep sobs, she snuffled out a little giggle and said, "He has a really big head." As the mom watched Butch tenderly snuggle with her little girl, a look of understanding came over her face. In that instant, she recognized the profound impact Butch was having on her daughter. In a very quiet and serious tone, she said, "I suspect this dog has an even bigger heart." She was absolutely correct. Butch has a huge heart.
And I think you would probably say that most dogs have huge hearts.
They really do. It's not, at Canine Assistance, I see this every day. And it's not that dogs are bright enough to learn to do things. It's that they're willing to do them for us.
Yeah, isn't that beautiful?
Fabulous.
In a Dog's Heart talks about everything you need to know about living and thriving with your dog. And it's all based on something called choice teaching. What's that? Stay tuned.
You're listening to Conversations on the Coast with Jim Foster. Now you can find this program on iTunes, SoundCloud, and all your favorite digital outlets. Follow the show on Twitter at JimFosterCoc and email jimfostercoc@gmail.com.
In a Dog's Heart, what our dogs need, want, and deserve, and the gifts we can expect in return. The author Jennifer Arnold is with us. The publisher is Spiegel and Grau. And a gentleman by the name of Steve Dale, who is the host of Steve Dale's Pet World and the Pet Minute. Is that radio or television?
Radio.
Good. I like radio.
I like radio, too.
He says, does Steve, "This book is my pick of the litter for so many reasons. How did Jennifer Arnold cram so much information into one book? The help of her brother, I suppose." She offers tons of useful hints, but what I love most is that she always advocates for what is in a dog's best interest. For Jennifer, it's all about how forming a relationship with another species has the potential to change your life. And that's right. That's the way you actually approach this whole business.
Absolutely.
And I think it's what makes, you successful and different.
Well, I see what dogs do to transform people's lives, and not just service dogs. I mean, pet dogs.
Yeah.
They're remarkable. I mean, can you imagine what our mental health bills would be in this country without dogs?
A lot more than our dog food bills.
Absolutely.
No, it's really a great way to look at it. It really, really is. There are other approaches than choice teaching, but tell us what choice teaching is about.
Well, choice teaching is all about allowing the dog, guiding the dog and encouraging them to make the correct decision.
Mm-hmm.
But then allowing the dog the choice, not forcing the dog to do things. Because once you show a dog what you want them to do, they enjoy doing it. For example, I love teaching dogs to walk next to me on leash, and we do it with a long spoon dipped in peanut butter.
Peanut butter?
Frozen in the freezer. Absolutely. And when the dog walks right beside me, he gets to lick the spoonful of peanut butter. If he runs off, we don't say a word. We're in a safely enclosed area.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And very quickly, the dog learns that being beside you is the place that feels the best. And the peanut butter goes away, but the memory of this has felt good before stays with the dog. And you allow them the opportunity to actually think and process through things. You have a very intelligent animal and a dog who's able to, to sort of figure out more than you would ever imagine.
One of the things I think you also give the dog an opportunity to do is to fail and not be,
Absolutely.
yelled at or scolded.
Dogs don't understand that. I mean, they are doing everything they can to understand us. They do not speak human.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think it's very important that the dog be given, our only correction is the absence of reward.
Yeah.
And that's ample correction for a dog. They truly do want to do what's in their best interest, which is pleasing you.
One of the things that you don't say straight out, but if one reads the book with any kind of care, you're suggesting, it seems to me, that the person spend a lot of time with the dog in teaching. I mean, some of the things you say, well, we'll do this off and on for a whole day. That's pretty demanding, isn't it?
Well, they're very simple things, really, that you can sort of incorporate into your daily routine. For example, putting little bags of dog food and treats, hiding them up high so dogs can't reach them, but having them all over the house. And, as you walk into your bathroom, you say, Rover, come here. And Rover comes and gets rewarded. And Rover realizes that when you say come here, it's in his best interest to find you in a hurry.
And that's all about your form of teaching. There are other approaches out there, and one of which particularly concerns you and upsets you. And I think it's called the alpha male approach. Or something like that?
Absolutely. Yeah, the whole idea that you have to dominate a dog physically and emotionally and sort of show the dog who's boss. Dogs already know humans are the boss. We control the food, the toys, where they sleep, everything. I don't know how much more control we need or could possibly desire. And when you practice being unkind, and make no mistake about it, it is unkind. When you practice that, it spills over from your relationship with animals to your relationship with your children and with other adults.
And it seems to me that approach, in terms of the stories that you tell about it in the book, always seems to be bordering on torture.
Well, and it is bordering on torture because dogs don't understand what it is that they've done that has made you go so nutty as to hold them down, on the floor. It's mind games with an animal who can't play. Just not fair.
One of the great things about In a Dog's Heart is that it gives us guidance in so many areas of our relationship with a dog, beginning with how do you select the puppy that's right for you? I know you were waiting for this one, so stay tuned.
You're listening to Conversations on the Coast with Jim Foster. Now you can find this program on iTunes, SoundCloud, and all your favorite digital outlets. Follow the show on Twitter at JimFosterCoc and email JimFosterCoc@gmail.com.
Jennifer Arnold is our guest today. Our co-guest is Butch, who is her dog, who is stretched out on the carpet, resting after a big night up in Sebastopol. And you know what it's like to have a big night in Sebastopol.
Absolutely.
Well, she's not here to talk about Sebastopol. She's here to talk about in a dog's heart, what our dogs need, want, and deserve, and the gifts we can expect in return. The publisher is Spiegel and Grau, and a person by the name of Susanna Charlson, who's an author of Scent of the Missing, Love and Partnership with a Search and Rescue Dog. And the book contains an anecdote about that rescue dog and Butch.
Poor Butch.
Well, let's get back to the reason for bringing her up at all. Some nice things she says about your book. With insight and compassion, Jennifer Arnold guides us through the inside of a dog's heart and teaches us how to build a relationship of love and trust on both sides. This guide is as practical as it is wise, a keeper book for a ready reference, as opposed to a throwaway book.
Absolutely.
Oh, my goodness gracious. The philosophical basis of this book, this whole notion of the dog giving us a gift, is captured succinctly, I think, at the very end, and under a subhead of All We Need to Know. Would you read that, please?
I'd be happy to. In 1789, the English philosopher Jeremy Bentham wrote, "The question is not, can they reason, nor can they talk, but can they suffer?" In 2011, we know that our dogs don't experience merely physical suffering, but emotional pain as well. And it is this knowledge that compels us to redefine appropriate treatment. They are not simply dogs in the way that label has traditionally been used. Dogs are thinking, feeling creatures, and no amount of comparative analysis to humans or cultural tradition can make acceptable the abuse of those who suffer. We must remember that our dogs are not wolves. They are both our wards and our teammates, but never our enemies. Our relationship compensates for individual weaknesses as a species and creates a whole vastly superior to the sum of its parts. What do dogs want? They want a good life. What do dogs need in order to have a good life? They need the care, concern, affection, and benevolent guidance of people. Why should we care about dogs? We should care about dogs because they don't just need us in their lives. They want us in their lives. Anyone who has ever known the love of a good dog understands that alone is reason enough.
That's right on. That's right on. I can't let you go without asking you to share your advice on how to pick a puppy.
You know, puppy picking is a tough thing.
Was Butch ever a puppy?
Butch was once a puppy.
Oh, okay.
Butch was born.
I thought maybe he just came on big.
Right. It's hard because puppies are so cute, but as a pet dog, what you really want to look for is not the puppy that comes bowling you over, nor the puppy that hides in the corner. You really want the middle of the road sort of dog. But my advice on picking a puppy or adopting a rescue dog is always the same. You have to fall in love. Because it's that falling in love that gets you through the bad times. So I think you have to have that sort of instant, almost chemical attraction to a dog before you take them into your lives.
That's the beginning point.
Absolutely.
And then everything beyond that becomes relative.
Absolutely.
Yeah. It's the same approach with the adult dog.
It really is. You have to... If you don't have that spark when you're struggling to sort of understand one another, it gets tough. It's like falling in love with a mate. You need to have that initial attraction in order to make it for the long haul.
You've picked the puppy and you've taken the puppy home. You've gone through training with newspaper or whatever We still use newspaper these days.
Some people do, yes.
And all that kind of stuff. And now you realize that you're responsible for what the dog will eat. What's a new dog owner facing and trying to decide?
It's crazy. And actually, I have had some criticism over my assessment of dog food, but I stand by what I say. There are large companies, several, 4 in particular, who do a tremendous amount of research on the nutritional requirements of dogs.
Companies the size of Purina.
Correct.
Mm-hmm.
And because they do that, and because they quality check every ingredient and they manufacture their own food, it's often much safer than boutique dog foods that may have little or no oversight. If dog food doesn't cross state lines, there's no regulation at all. And even if it does, there's minimal regulation. And I think that sometimes people get sucked in by super clever marketing that makes you feel like if you don't buy dog food that's $100 a bag, you're not doing right by your dog. Sometimes that can be the opposite of the truth.
Those are harsh words in the land of boutique here.
Uh-oh.
Boutique dog foods, boutique this and that. But you're a person who knows. You're a person who...
And I feel like I just kind of need to say the truth about it.
That's right. And when it comes to dogs and what they need and deserve, you walk the walk. The book is called In a Dog's Heart, What Our Dogs Need, Want, and Deserve, and the Gifts We Can Expect in Return. It's by Jennifer Arnold, published by Spiegel and Grau. This has been Conversations on the Coast, and I'm Jim Foster.
Now you can find this program on iTunes, SoundCloud, and all your favorite digital outlets. Follow the show on Twitter at Jim Foster COC and email jimfostercoc@gmail.com.